And welcome to Medical Mondays, y'all. This is your host with the most THC in his motherfucking bloodstream, BERG. Of course, I got my right hand man, my compadre, my co-host with me, Adorocho.
What up, Doe?
And of course, we got our boy C Murder in the building.
What's up?
And we also got Jamie Lowell in the house. And
What?
that motherfucker Taco Meat Thompson. Rick Thompson's in the building. Yeah.
I've been called lots of things. That's a bad nickname. Hello to Georgia Philandrius Fraser, who's watching from down there. What's up?
Yeah.
What? Shout out. Yeah. He's from Georgia. Shout out to our special guests that are going to join us in a few. Calyxeum. Am I saying it right?
Yes, sir. Shout out Calyxeum. They making moves on the West Coast right now. They're gonna get back with us as soon as they get settled.
For sure.
But man, before we even get into it, time out. I want to take a moment to say happy motherfucking birthday
Oh,
to
shit.
all the motherfucking cancers in my life. Like, shout out Berg. It was his birthday yesterday. But shout out my daughter. Shout out Native Made. Shout out Berg. Shout out Michigan Cannabis events. All cool ass cancers. Glad to have y'all in my life. Never a problem celebrating y'all. Glad it was your day. Sorry that it was during quarantine and it sucked, but we still here. Much love.
No, yeah, big shout out to everybody who showed me love. Big shout out to fucking Michigan Turk Bars. He gave me a hefty sack. Also, big shout out to Chronic Illusions. He picked this up this weekend.
Yeah, big shout out to Chronic Illusions. I seen him earlier today too.
Yeah. Shout out to everybody who cash at me too, man. I was surprised people actually sent me some money.
Man, I'm gonna have to try that.
Yeah. But yeah, thanks for all the love. I want to give a huge shout out to all of our sponsors. Of course, we got Honeybee Extractions, Native Made, Ghostbuster Farms, Western Tobacco, Michigan Turk Farms, Michigan Ganja Queen, and Label my motherfucking bud, y'all.
Damn. That's super lit.
Huge shout out to Native Made too. She gave me a muffin and some of the native glue, aka, I mean, it's Gorilla Glue, but she has a fire ass cut.
It's that native cut.
Yeah. Michigan.
Oh man.
Events. Happy birthday, Mr. Manny D. That motherfucker Dylon's in the chat. What up, dude?
Crazy.
What's everybody smoking on today?
I got some of Michigan Turp Farms. This one, I don't know exactly the strain.
OZ Kush.
OZ Kush.
OZ Kush.
That's some fire.
It's some pretty good shit. I finished off most. I met up with Berg last week, and now I finished off most of them. I'm just down to like that one and this Skittles with the dead head.
Oh, that's the
Steal Your Face.
Yes, it's Steal Your Face, but it's with a Z.
Gotcha. Zeal Your Face.
Yep.
Zeal. It's like Russian. You got to say it with a Russian accent.
Zeal.
Steal Your Face.
Zeal with face.
I got Sour Diesel. I'm jamming on.
Oh, no way. Sorry.
Yeah, love sour D. Got a new mask I wear out in public. This is it.
Yeah, I need to get one of those.
Yes, sir.
Mm-hmm.
What you smoking on, Jamie?
Should get Medical Monday masks for us.
No, we should.
We are.
I got some Deadhead.
Deadhead. Oh, shit.
That sounds like a AARP kind of problem.
Yeah, but low key, man, we are working on some Medical Mondays, man. Shout out Moonlit Edibles. Yeah.
Jamie and I were at the Oz Cannabis grand opening of the recreational sales on Friday, and they had Oz Cannabis masks that we had for everybody. So, I mean, I know that they're out there. Darren McCarty has a mask that's made specifically for him that's got, teeth that are sort of busted up, and it's got, his number on them and stuff.
It's got his fist with all of the 4 rings that he's won on it.
Yeah, it's
That's
cool.
good.
Smashing the face with all of his Stanley Cup rings.
It's a shitty way to come up with a new fashion thing, but man, really, these masks are starting to look pretty good on people. There were some people I always wanted to force to wear a mask in the past, but now we can shame them if they don't instead of just having a bad idea before.
May as well get used to it.
The dating pool just opened wide for fucking Rick Thompson with these masks.
Yeah, as long as I keep mine on, it's going down.
Yeah, man. Well, I'm lucky enough to be smoking on some forum cut cookie from Chronic Illusions. Shout out Chronic Illusions. And then I rolled this big stupid ass stove of some dirty Spritite from Michigan Turp Farms. So you already know, man. By the end of this show, I'm gonna be a wreck.
You got Calyxeum back up in here.
What?
Yeah.
Jamie smoked some of that dirty Sprite with me last week on Tuesday.
Yeah, we burned through some of those contributions that were given when we were in. They were outstanding.
Quite often, quite awesome.
The Sprite was really great. It has that citrusy smell that I was really looking for. That kind of a tangy thing was exceptional. That's one when as soon as you open the package, you want it. Okay, a lot of cannabis smells very similar. Not this. This was really distinct, really terp.
Yeah, so sitting around Third Coast and Oz for a little while, so I have been able to have some of it. But it was nice. The smorgasbord that was provided last Tuesday was quite nice.
My compliments to the grower.
And everybody that I smoked it with was like they smelled it immediately upon coming near it, and be like, "Whoa, what is that shit?"
Where I come from, they call that they was on your dick, see murder.
Yeah, they was.
They're like, what is that?
I was like,
Man.
You asked Taco Meat to kind of be civil, and then you break the rule yourself.
He just wanted rules for me, not for himself, man. I know it's fun to show off. It's cool. But,
yeah, man. Unfortunately, we're doing this through Zoom, but I was really looking forward to and am still interested in trying some of this Calyxeum cannabis. It seems like these ladies here have brought their own little approach to this cannabis industry that seems to be overrun with a bunch of white guys. So what's going on, ladies of Calyxeum?
you're on mute, my dear.
Oh yeah, you got. So
can you hear me now?
I gotta call it what it is, man. I like it's few and far between. So
yeah. That's true. Rebecca's joining us now.
What up, though? Hello.
What up?
Hello.
Yeah, so we've been in the industry for about 10 years total between the two of us. I started off as a caregiver in Michigan. Started off with my grandmother being my first patient. and she really loved the products. It really helped her with her fibromyalgia and her chronic pain. And a friend of mine, he had opened up a caregiver certification clinic and was teaching classes on 7 Mile in Southfield. I don't know if you guys remember that spot. So he had classes, and they found out that I was making edibles and wanted me to come teach a class on how to make edibles. And from there, I was making the edibles for some of my students, and word just spread, and everybody started asking me for cookies and ice cream, and I just started baking. But I found out early on that really the best way to do edibles is to grow your own. And so I had to learn how to start to cultivate cannabis, and really just a passion of growing the plant. It really is a passion for me. And so that's how I got into the industry.
Oh, that's
Rebecca,
what we're talking about. Hi
yeah.
guys.
What's up?
Happy Monday. So I got into the industry more so as an advocate in the beginning, more for veterans. My dad was a vet, and he was on all these pills for all type of pain, COPD, and I realized one time when he was taking all these pills, I'm like, why the fuck is it so many pills? Like, this is ridiculous. This seems like this is not helping you because you're still in all this pain, but you take 10 pills. So we just started smoking weed, and we didn't have to take any of those pills anymore. And I was Maryland a year ago, and I started lobbying for like veterans access to cannabis on the federal level because I didn't realize how difficult it was for vets to get access to weed, and that if they get drug tested, they could be in liberty of losing their VA benefits, which a lot of veterans solely depend on is their VA benefits because they can't get a job. You know, a lot of their family didn't shut them out. So that all they really have sometimes is their VA benefits. And if they get drug tested and they find weed in their system, they could lose them just for them trying to just heal themselves, cure their pain and all that kind of stuff. So I started advocating for them, and realized that it wasn't a lot of people of color in the industry. There's a lot of people of color that smoke weed. I know that personally. But when I start going to these conferences and stuff like that, I'm like, this is not diverse. And cannabis is a plant I feel that brings all colors, sexes, ages together. And when I used to go to these conferences, it was really like the same people, like older white men. And I'm like, I ain't never seen y'all at no smokers clubs. I ain't never seen, like, where did y'all come from? So I started getting real passionate about women getting into the industry, Black people getting into the industry, Hispanics getting into the industry. And then we met on our journey and formed Calyxeum, really trying to advocate for more people of color getting in the industry, more women, more Detroiters, just more people from the community instead of all this corporate big money that's runs every other industry, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, so currently we are caregivers, and we are looking to scale our operation. We purchased some property in Detroit's green zone, and right now we're going through the site plan process with the city, which started back in September of 2019. And now we just had our special land use hearing, which they said they were so impressed with us. So now we're waiting to hear back from the community. I think we had a lot of support. We had support from block clubs. We had support from um, Councilman Tate's office. We just had a lot of support. District 7 is where we are. We had support from them. So right now we're just, going through that process of getting all those approvals so that we can start to break ground on our facility. We want to have 10,000 square feet of grow, 5 flower rooms with a perpetual harvest. We want to be able to employ Detroiters. We want to be able to employ people of color. We want to do some workforce development programs. We purchased homes on the same street that we bought our property on. And so we want to turn those houses into places where we can have programs to teach people how to grow, teach people how to garden. So we really have a community aspect to our plan as to what we want to do in cannabis.
Yeah.
Very cool. Good job.
Okay, so you guys are fully licensed?
So no, that's the process that we're going through now. We've already passed the pre-qualification stage, but I don't know if you guys know, but the municipal side can sometimes take a little bit longer than the actual state process. So right now we're just again waiting on. They give you 2 weeks after your hearing, your special land use hearing, the city of Detroit, for anybody to say write in and say they don't really necessarily want us there. But like I said, we have so much support that we're pretty sure that we should be good to go, and that we'll be able to then go down and register with the Register of Deeds so that we can start doing construction.
So now Detroit is only medical, but
Right.
do you fully assume that they will move forward and you'll be able to also then
You
subsequently
hope.
move forward too?
Yeah. So Rebecca's on a committee working with Councilman Tate's office.
Yeah, Detroit, they want to go rec, but they just want to make sure that enough Detroiters and people of color get access to those licenses. Because years ago, all these dispensaries popped up and they were all owned by Chaldeans. Ain't nothing wrong with Chaldeans, but when all of them are owned by Chaldeans in a city as diverse as Detroit, it's a problem. So they basically just want to make sure nothing like that happens again. That the license holders look just like Detroit, which is diverse. It's full of, white people, black people, Chaldeans, whatever, women, men. So we're going through drafting the rec ordinance right now just to make sure a percentage of the licenses go to Detroiters and a percentage of the licenses go to minorities.
All due respect, Councilman Tate's been saying that for 2 whole years now, and his end product is a big goose egg. He just announced that they're not going to get rec done until at least 2021. And that really puts Detroit at a disadvantage, and people like yourself at a disadvantage over all of those communities on the edge of your city who are going recreational and taking opportunity and advantage and customer base away from you. I really hope you're successful, and congratulations for getting in to a committee on Councilman Tate's uh, uh, watch, because that's the only place where cannabis law reform is taking place in the city is through Councilman Tate's office.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so we formed like a coalition of cannabis industry professionals, so we can talk to him and like, look, bro, you losing us a whole lot of money. Detroit don't have no room to lose no money, especially during COVID. The revenue that can come from cannabis can really fix everything in the city. It can fix our public schools, the fucking potholes. It can fix everything, and you just dragging your feet. And we basically we wrote the legislation for him already, so it's already written. He just has to get signatures, which is how policy
Uh,
is. So I think this time around, because I agree with you, he's been saying the same thing, but this time around I think he has the ear of the industry, and people that are in the industry that look like me, his constituents. Like, I'm a Detroiter, from his neighborhood, person of color. So I'm about who you've been talking about all these years, Councilman Tate. And really, you holding me back. So really, when I talked to him like that, he was like, "Oh yeah, the people that I wanted to help, I'm actually hurting right now by dragging my feet." And I'm like, "Well, hello, wake the fuck up." So, we're finally getting some movement now. We would have been a little farther along, but COVID happened.
so
um,
uh, so
yeah.
are
So
all of the licenses created or allowed under the MRTMA included in this city
yes,
legislation? Okay.
all
And,
five.
and what types of things are being done to help? Because unless like on the local level, there's like an extra emphasis and some more specific direction on the social equity
Yeah.
opportunities, it has a harder time happening. So what types of things are in there that really help that out?
Yeah, so we've created like these workshops, and not no BS workshops that are facilitated with real industry experts so we can help social equity applicants with this application process, which we're social equity applicants. I've been in the industry, so I know that application is a huge hindrance. So we given access to these consultants, to these attorneys, to these architects at discounted prices, which I think is a huge benefit. That's one of the things. And we're also giving them access to the knowledge, the knowledge that an architect may have because he or she has built plenty of grows. So you could, get those best practices from them. access to how to create like standard operating procedures. You know, some people who have maybe been growing for years or whatever, they may have the best bud, but they can't run a business. So we're trying to give them templates that they can use to run that business, you know, be a great grower or whatever, but also be a great business owner. And that's where I've been trying to educate these elected officials on those are the gaps. We may be good at our trade, which is growing, making the best gummies or whatever, but these people need access on the business of cannabis, all these plans, these drawings, these budgets, 280E. And so that's what we're educating, the applicants on.
Yeah, and also the real estate too. I mean, the real estate is a huge, huge part. And so being able to identify those green zone properties and linking, prospective applicants with a realtor that can identify some of those areas where it is okay for them to establish a business.
Yeah.
How are we defining exactly who gets advantage in this situation? Because there's many different ways. You can sometimes say ownership has to be 50% plus, employee base has to come 50% from the locality. Some of those are legally kind of questionable. What's your methodology to make sure real Detroiters are benefiting here?
So the law department is really kind of where we just make suggestions to them, and the law department, and they, at the end of the day, they can tell us whether that's a good idea or a legal idea or not a legal idea. So there have been talks of, like you said, the 50% ownership, the legacy Detroiters, people who have lived in the city for a certain amount of time. All those things are being considered. As far as proposals.
Yeah, and all I want to add is legally they can't say Black people or Hispanics, So what we're doing is using the term legacy Detroiter. For that, there are several characteristics. One is if you graduated from a high school that's in Detroit, if you've lived in Detroit for 10 years, it doesn't have to be consecutive because we also introduced, like me, for instance, I went away to college, when I graduated from high school and then came back. So, we have those stipulations too. Or if you've owned a business in Detroit that has been majority employed by mostly Detroit employees, then that's also a characteristic that would consider you a legacy Detroiter that would give you priority access to those licenses that have been held. Right now, they haven't agreed on a percentage, but they're talking between 30 and 50% that Latoya was just talking about. So 30% of those licenses to go to legacy Detroiters.
That's an interesting concept, legacy Detroiters. I love it because it really incorporates all of the attributes that you want to do. And Michigan law, as well as other states' laws, really don't allow you to define groups by racial composition for a lot of discriminatory reasons. To stop people from being discriminatory is what I meant to say. Is there a particular city that you tried to pattern this ordinance after, or did you find successful pieces from several cities and then use them as a template to put this thing together?
Yeah, I think the most successful ones are in Oakland and Chicago. So we've consulted with both of those. Yeah.
Yeah, we really, my impression that I'm trying to put, and whenever I have an opportunity to speak, is they really need the financial resources. At the end of the day, the cost of the entry costs to the cannabis industry are so huge. We really need some type of incubator, some type of way to, give access to capital.
Yeah, and in Chicago, their social equity program, they have an incubator that's led by a privately held company, but they still are creating this incubator for those social equity applicants to provide those resources that Latoya just talked about at a really cheap rate or free because it's funded by this $1 million cannabis company. Yeah. So yeah, Illinois is definitely like doing that right now, is doing the whole social equity piece, but also adding on those financial resources, which is like the huge gap. Yeah, you can help me write an application, but what about the money though?
Carry the load for me. Help me zero or no interest.
So as part of the discussion, some of the ancillary opportunities that might be available for those who don't want to be part of the licensed commercial program, or who find that to be, too complicated or too expensive for however they would like to conduct business. And
Yeah, more of education though. Educating people in the community about the ancillary opportunities that exist, like marketing, being an accountant, being a realtor. Yeah. hmm And that's also something that we're doing, not tied to the city of Detroit, but we're doing through Calyxeum, through our nonprofit side in this workforce development program, is just really going to the community and educating people how they can have jobs in cannabis. That doesn't necessarily mean you want to be, operators like us, but that may mean you want to get some experience to go be a bud tender at a dispensary, or you want to get some experience to open up a cannabis accounting firm, so you need to know about 280E, or you want to be a cannabis realtor, so you need to know about the green zone map. So yeah, we're definitely including that in our curriculum, because we do understand not everybody wants to go through all the stuff that we're going through to be operators, but there's a whole lot of opportunity outside of touching the plant. It's a full industry. It's an industry just as big as any other, and we need all hands on deck and all different type of skills like this. Media, entertainment. Like, this is a whole nother avenue centered around the cannabis industry.
One of the biggest places where small businesses get hung up in the process is with planning and zoning. And planning and zoning can be a completely different animal than city council. You can have great representatives on city council, and planning and zoning can shoot you right down because they don't like it. So I'm curious, are you able to put some kind of a generalization directive in the ordinance to not have planning and zoning be so persnickety with the rules? Maybe be more accommodating instead of a 500-foot when someone applies for a 300-foot variance instead of a 500. Be more interested in granting that. I think the way that we'll get small business in Detroit, especially since a lot of those businesses have already been in existence and all the great spots are already taken before social equity even gets off the ground. We're already scrambling for the second best spots. So if we're a little bit more forgiving in things like barriers and restrictions and zoning, that would really be helpful for the small business. I wonder if that's possible to do.
Yeah, I think one of the big things is exposing the city of Detroit to other successful markets, other more mature markets, because Colorado, California, like we're in, they're more mature. If they were just open to consulting with these representatives in these other markets, they could see how it is possible not to be so strict, or they can see how in Oakland they set aside certain zones that are still high traffic zones, very popular areas. So they're not leaving, the the bottom of the barrel, for the social equity applicants. They're giving them access to some prime real estate because they just set it apart. So I just think, if as we grow the city, the state of Michigan, and start to consult with other markets that have done it for years and years successfully, then we'll see, like, oh, this does work. you know
Yeah.
that's my suggestion to them, and that's what I'm kind of working on is, if you won't listen to me, little old consultant operator, maybe you'll listen to the city of Los Angeles. you know
Yeah.
so
But I think for them, I think the biggest challenge is their constituents. It's the city of Detroiters who don't necessarily want cannabis or
yeah,
don't understand.
that's
We've
another
had to do a
issue.
lot of education just in the community that we're in, that is green zone. We've had to educate the elders on, look, like letting them know this is going to make your community safer. We're going to have 24-hour security. We're going to, maybe take some of the blight, and that's going to go away. So it's so much education, so much lobbying
Yeah.
that also has to be done. And I think, the more we set good examples, the better it'll be. But I think it's going to be a long
A
long
tough
road,
battle.
long
Yeah.
road.
It's a lot of community education. And in these other places that I mentioned on the West Coast, they grew up around weed. Somebody in their family grew it. It's just, even if they don't consume, they know about it. They're comfortable with it. The thing about Detroit, especially in the neighborhoods that these green zones are in, they're filled with a lot of elderly people that in their day, weed was bad. So it's a whole demystifying, the negative around the drug. We start from scratch here. So
Yeah.
Well, I know that in Detroit we've had a couple of different votes. We had a vote for medical back in the early days, and we had a vote for those two ordinances that just recently were put up a couple years ago that ended up being invalidated because of process. But in all of the votes that have been offered to the people of the citizens of Detroit, they've always said yes. And city council is absolutely influenced by that very vocal group headed by representatives, or I'm sorry, by reverends and ministers. I've been accosted by them, Jamie, and I've tried very much for years to help positively influence cannabis laws in Detroit, and that's been the people who've come at us with stakes and torches.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, trust me, we know. We
I
know.
know.
But I think because our approach, and I feel like because I don't know if you're from Detroit, I think that has a huge impact just on just as far as being able to educate, and just them coming with more a spirit of a little bit more openness, not complete and total, because we had people that opposed us during our hearing. It was the guy who lived right next door to our building. He said he didn't want dope being sold next door to him, and we're like, we're not even going to be selling it, we're not a dispensary.
Right.
We're that is not what we do, but it's just a lot of misinformation and lack of education, so it's a challenge.
It
It's a
is very
challenge.
Well,
challenging.
you guys seem like you're communicating really well and getting involved where you need to be and having your voice,
Yeah.
where it needs to be. So that's really cool.
Yeah.
More
Seeing the
progress.
avenues of change, right? Good.
Yeah, no, and I'll say it's a cultural thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know like if you grew up in the hood, regardless of a color of skin, your parents told you to stay away from that, not because they didn't smoke it themselves or they thought that it was going to drive you crazy, but because that's one of the things that's used to target you when you're out in public. That's one of the things that can take you away from the family. It's a lot of fear, like
Yeah.
bad negative feelings associated with it that they don't understand, aren't there. And if anybody's ever been a part of the cannabis community before it was like legal and you could be out in the open, you can relate to sometimes you will fall into like, oh, I'm gonna get in trouble, or you get paranoid a little bit. And
Hmm.
it's like, oh, it's not like that anymore. So I think that's a big part of it, that we got to convince that older generation that the police aren't going to kill us over it, but like we
Exactly.
can't,
Exactly.
and that's
And
a big part of the problem.
yeah, and I think in that whole generational thing, we've just been trying to also educate them on all the benefits. They're always talking about helping the kids and stuff like that. And I try to educate them that cannabis is the fastest growing industry in America in regards to jobs. So when you think about your grandson or your granddaughter or whatever, and you think about them wanting to be successful, like this is an industry that they need to look into. Also, people that are employed in cannabis, on average, their salaries are 30% higher. So when when we talk about just empowering our community, economic development, cannabis is written all over it. So that's why I try to hit hit the benefits from that angle, because we've definitely tried to hit the angle of like it's medicine, but then we get the feedback of what opioids are medicine, or that's what this guy said in our hearing when I start to say, well, cannabis is medicine. We've healed patients from cancer and stuff. And his response was, some pill, some Vicodin or whatever, that's a medicine too. So
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, that angle is not going to work for these people. Let me start talking about jobs and economics, because that's one of the issues with our urban communities is access to real jobs, like real economics, so we can afford to provide for our families.
Like jobs that like are like make people passionate about going to
Exactly.
work.
Yes.
Exactly. Not just, janitor jobs, bus driver jobs, and stuff like that. You
Gives you
know,
emotional fulfillment too, right? You're doing
exactly.
something for the good of the community as well as earning a couple bucks.
Yep.
Exactly.
For
Which has
sure.
a lot of mental health benefits, which is a whole nother. stigma. So we're really trying, we really believe that cannabis can heal the community from like a 180 aspect: economics, mental health, blight, make you feel good, give you an appetite if you need one, like give you sleep if you need to go to sleep. So that's why we're just so passionate about it, and we get a lot of like opposition, but we really feel it's because they're not really that educated, you know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Definitely can't take it too personally.
yeah, we
You
just
know.
try again.
Yeah.
Persistence.
Hmm.
They made alcohol legal. I'm pretty sure people had to lobby for that persistently. So that's what we're
Mm.
doing for weed.
Yeah. They had an easier time getting the federal government to topple when they decided. So
Was there
what's
oh, I was
go
gonna
ahead.
ask, was there any discussion about the social lounges in the ordinance that you were working on in Detroit?
Yeah, no, they haven't really talked about that.
Yeah.
No.
Yes. Really just the five
I think they're
license
really
type.
trying to figure out how that goes first and then add on like the consumption lounges and stuff like that. And then when you
That's
get like other markets, like Colorado and Cali where they are, they did those kind of last two anyways. So I think that's what they're probably gonna wait to see what happens and then add on those other license types.
Hmm.
You have to gain ground when you can, but it's unfortunate 'cause that's a lot of opportunity that's just
I
sitting there
know.
that's going to have to wait. Also, yeah.
I know.
Detroit's difficult. Detroit is not going to proceed the way the rest of the state is. It's going to be a unique situation, and unfortunately, sometimes it means it's dragging.
What
Yeah.
is your nonprofit all about, and how does that fund it? Do you do fundraisers for it? Do you take donations?
Yes. You want me to start?
Yeah. You can start.
Uh, so it's something I'm real passionate about. That's why I'm like, can I go? So right now, we're focusing on a few aspects. One is improving the blight. So in our neighborhood where our facility is maybe about 3 homes that are occupied. The rest are vacant and falling over. So we've purchased 2 of them. We're gonna tear them down and we're gonna rebuild them like the kind of tiny house concept. We want to use them as community houses. So one we want to use for her grow classes and stuff like that, and then another one we really both want them both as community houses to do that workforce development program and to do the after school programs. And we want to focus the after school programs on STEM subjects because Latoya has a science background, I have an engineering background, and that's really what we're doing. We're processing and growing. That's science and STEM all over it. So that's what we want to teach the children in the community about. And there was one more thing, or I
Community
said everything.
gardens.
Yeah,
So I've been working with an architect slash engineer on the plans. Because like I said, the city, asked for a lot up front. They want all kind of plans, dumpsters, where the fire hydrant is, everything. So in working with him, he's an architect in Chicago and has some really cool plans that we're working on as far as doing the shipping container model,
yeah,
also being able to add community gardens in that model, and also greenhouses in that model. So that way we can create more like a self-sustaining area because there's so much vacant land
yeah,
where we are, and we can buy the lots for so cheap, and the land bank is just open to us purchasing those homes in that area. So we're going to try to get as many homes as we can. And we I have an education background as well. I'm in childcare of all things as well, and so I know a lot about grant writing. I've received grants and received MSU extension grants from the state. So it's just about writing those grants
yeah.
and telling our story just the way we're telling it to you guys.
Yeah, so that's one avenue of funding is the grants. Since we're, a nonprofit, we're applying for agricultural grants, educational grants, community grants, but then also 10% of our
Revenue.
gross annual revenue we're putting towards the nonprofit as well. We want to do a whole lot of community work about education and outreach, so we're going to use that money to fund those type of when we're able to have events again, after COVID. We're going to use that to fund those community events. Yeah.
Tell us what the name of the nonprofit is and how people could maybe even contribute now, even before you have all those events going on.
Yeah, so right now we decided to name it Calyxeum Catalyst. We we view cannabis as a catalyst, to so many other things. So that's what we're calling it. And really just reach out to us on our regular website. We have a contact us form on Calyxeum.com, and just, say interested in volunteering, or I have experience with grant writing or fundraising. Shameless
Could you
plug.
spell Calyxeum? Could you spell Calyxeum?
Yeah, Calyxeum.
Are you guys
Yeah.
curious to know what that is? What Calyxeum means?
Sure, it's a part of the growing plant. Sure.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Just want to make sure.
Yeah.
The calyx, right? Exactly.
Yep.
The
The
calyx,
calyx.
exactly.
Yep.
Yep.
I didn't know
Berg
that.
taught me that. See,
Okay.
Murder?
I didn't know that.
You didn't know that? Yeah.
I
Right.
didn't know that.
Okay. Okay.
Thanks for teaching me something new.
Uh-huh.
Well, I mean, I hope you're going to stay with us for the whole show, but wow, you've got a lot of ambition. You're well connected, and you have a vision that I think you can actually make happen. So, best of wishes to you, and I hope to be able to keep in touch with you to monitor your program as it goes on.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Yeah, no, big shout out to Calyxeum. I've never met them. I really don't know them, but I heard and I saw a little bit, and I asked them, and they said yeah. So it was awesome. I knew it was going to be a great show because it seemed like they had a lot to say.
Thanks for having us. When my harvest comes in, I'm going to make sure I gift everybody some of my Gelato 41 times animal cookies. And I created this Gorilla Glue strand. It's like an offshoot of Gorilla Glue. I found a seed in the Gorilla Glue that I had. I got a cut of it from, I don't know if you guys know who Hollis is, but
Yeah, Hollis P. Wood, yeah, of course.
Hollywood.
yeah. So I got a cut of that from him, like before anybody was even talking about Gorilla Glue. And he was like, don't let anybody get this cut. It didn't have any roots on it. I took it, I got 3 of them, only 1 survived. And I started growing Gorilla Glue in my basement. So I have an offspring of that and a few other strands that I've been working on. I want to create our own, strands. Yeah.
Hollis has some nefarious connections, so you never know where he gets it, but it's always good.
Yeah, I don't know about any of that.
Okay. He's a good guy. You know what? We used to have a center down on Mack Avenue, and we used to hang out there all the time. It was a really nice place. He was co-opted with John Sinclair for a while.
That's where I did a lot of caregiver over there. I was at Dab Wars. I just kind of moved around the different little, cannabis industry.
Big J.
Yeah, those are our people. Those are people we've known for a decade.
Okay. Yeah.
Sweet.
Yep, I live in Detroit. I'm not from here, but I do live here now. So for sure, if you need some help with something, I am available, especially at the gardening and stuff like that. I help out with the community garden nearby here now.
Okay, you look familiar. I don't know where I've seen you. Maybe you were like.
Sounds like you've been involved in cannabis for lots of years, so that's very, very likely that we've crossed paths a few times.
You've seen him.
Sure.
Uh-huh.
Yep, I've been super
Not as big of a deal as Rick, but yes.
I noticed that you said you noticed Jamie, but you hadn't noticed me. That's cool.
No, I noticed you too. I was gonna say that. I've seen you somewhere too. I just got to figure out. I don't know if it was like at a High Times Cannabis Cup in Clio or something at the Eastern Market. I'm not.
You're not showing your taco meat tonight, Rick.
Look, I want to give them a fair chance, right? I'm not gonna, No. Just a tease. That's it. So, on show 2, you get a better show. You know what I'm saying? Come back. Okay.
Okay.
So no, that's fantastic. I was just actually. Oh, there's the logo right there.
Yep, that's the logo.
Nice.
On Friday, Marijuana Business Daily did a big article about Michigan and the social equity program, and I was quoted in it a couple times, and I said that social equity is the great unfulfilled promise of America's cannabis revolution. And I think it's true.
That's spot on.
It's true in almost every state. We've talked about Oakland, and we talk about maybe Chi-Town a little bit as being places where it's getting better. But I don't think we can point to any place in the 50 states where we can say, yeah, that's a program I want us to copy. not even
mandates.
Baltimore. Pardon?
I mean, there are mandates in these states, but it's never really been implemented to the way that like was imagined.
And here's the thing: in Michigan, our state government only has so much they can do according to them. I think they could do more, but they say that they're kind of capped out as the advantages they can provide to the social equity program. So the real heavy lifting is going to have to come from the cities and perhaps even counties too. But if you've got a city who's seriously interested in getting the industry launched with people that look like its constituents, they have a chance. Not just to do their city right, but to set a national example that other communities who are really looking for an example, just like we're looking for an example. If you were the penultimate social equity city, you would be a national model. It would be a gift to the people of Detroit and to the people of the United States. They have a chance to do it right. In my personal opinion, leaving out social consumption lounges and leaving out some of the other additional licenses.
Yeah.
It seems like that's only taking a half step when Detroit could really deserve a full step, actually a step and a half, because they've been behind for so many years.
And the micro opportunities too.
I know. And of course, we have dreams for what we'd like to see in the city, but like you mentioned, the law department's going to have the final say on language and how much teeth you actually have and what you can do. And then, of course, you've got council to deal with and all the pressures that they receive from the community. So I know oftentimes our dreams have to get watered down and we have to just accept what they give us. Mm-hmm. But I hope you're getting us something that's really good.
Yeah. We're trying.
We're trying for sure. For sure.
Isaac Robinson passed away from coronavirus. I'm not sure if you knew the Representative Robinson, but for many years he was a big advocate of cannabis in the city of Detroit, with council and his different actions.
Is that District 4? Was it District 4?
Yes, ma'am.
Yep.
Big jolly guy, big dude. Mm-hmm. Yes, and so there's some might say there might be a leadership vacuum in the city. Al Williams is a candidate for office. We've had on, Jamie and I do a different podcast called Jazz Cabbage Cafe, and Al Williams is running for office. We've had him on. Jamie, whom else from the city of Detroit?
3.
Yep. He's
David Palmer, District 6 and 9. Reggie Davis in District...
Reg.
Fraser Kempson in District 4. I know he's running for that seat.
There's there's somebody else who we interviewed from District 4 too.
Okay. Yeah, you had some woman from District 6, wherever the Russ is. Forget her name.
That was District 6. Okay.
Yeah.
Tanisha, or her name. What was her name?
So there's a nice slate of people for the primary election that we could really get behind. In fact, Jamie and I are on the I guess they call it and so is Colin. What are we on?
The treasurer.
The treasurer of the Cannabis Caucus of the Michigan Democratic Party, and we're putting together a list of candidates to recommend for election and primary. We'll do formal endorsements for the general election in November, but in the primary, we'd like to make some recommendations. And there's a lot of people representing Detroit and Wayne County that really get it, that really should deserve that office.
Yeah.
All right. I don't want to interrupt, but the young lady was Tawana Simpson from District 4.
Thank you. You're right. Yes, I remember her name now. Yeah, she's good.
Yeah.
There's 13 people running in that race, in the Democratic race in the primary in August. So there's a lot of participation. On one hand, it's good. If you're in the race, I'm sure you wish the field was a little bit more narrow, probably.
But if you've got 13 candidates weighing it down, then a smaller number of votes can actually really sway the election. If it's just 2 people, you've really got to do quite well. So maybe this works to her advantage.
Maybe.
I don't know. I'm hopeful. We're hoping to be able to help steer people towards pro-cannabis candidates. It's so difficult to tell who is who just based on one single interview they do in a newspaper or based on, a campaign statement. How much do we trust those? Usually not very much.
Yeah, you really have to know the candidate, You got to really get to know the candidate in some way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's why we're in the formal endorsements before the general election. But if you have any candidates that you think would be really a good fit for our Cannabis Caucus recommendations list, we'd appreciate you passing that information along. We'll be happy to take a look and to add them to the list. Anything we can do to give some people who deserve it some extra PR, it's worth it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Thank you.
definitely,
Yeah,
definitely.
definitely.
Cool.
So what
So
are you smoking on anything out there?
So Rebecca, we do pre rolls. So right
Yeah.
now she's got a lot of pre rolls because we've been traveling. We flew here from Detroit to Arizona. So we don't like to really travel with anything too dank. But we do have some Calyxeum pre rolls
Yeah.
that she's been enjoying.
Is that your Gorilla Glue in there? What's
Yeah,
what's
what's
being
in
used for
Well,
that?
it's a mix. It's like a hybrid.
Okay.
It's a mix of.
Salad.
Yep.
Okay. That's good.
It's
Smoke's
like
pretty
So
good.
where where
It's
can people get Collection products? Do you guys go to like different events and vendor, or what's the deal?
Yeah, so because we're going through this whole licensing process with the state, we're going through, these
Mm,
background checks with the FBI. We are just caregivers right now. Okay, that's
yeah.
all we are. It's caregivers. We
okay.
can, sell our overages, to dispensaries. I think until September, right? Then after
Yeah.
that,
September 30th. Yeah.
yeah, that's a wrap after that. So our newest harvest, once that comes through, we'll be able to probably, what's the name of that place? I can't think of it right
Utopia.
now. Utopia Gardens. We have good relationships with them. We also have a good relationship with used to be Botanique, so now that's
Liberty.
Liberty. It's changed hands. But everything has to go through processors now. So it's we've been really quiet. We've been really quiet until we get these licenses. To be quite
Yeah.
honest.
So
that's
nothing
wise.
outside
That's
of the
very
city.
wise.
Yeah.
They
Yes.
look for anything to disqualify. So
Yep.
I'm glad you get your head in the game with that. It's tricky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
When we wrote the legalization proposal, we didn't want any of that shit to be included. Jamie's technically an author of the legalization proposal, the legalized law that we work with right now, and we wanted to get rid of all of those stupid background checks, the FBI criminal monitoring program, all that. Come on, man, what you're gonna ask for my spouse's information, my children's information? What the
Yeah.
fuck? Come
Yeah.
on. That's not necessary. So we
It's
wanted
a
to take some of those things away.
right. Yeah. So right now we're just caregivers and we're dealing with our Fab Five. And that's pretty much it right now. But once that's why we're so focused on the social media side because we really want to create a real buzz for our products. So then once we get the license and we become operational, we'll definitely be able to, connect to the people that's been following us and let them know exactly where we're going to be.
That's smart.
Yeah. She said.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
I guess I want to ask you guys then. I guess about your like cultivation habits and
Oh no,
like
you can talk. We can talk about that for sure. Yeah, all
so
day.
like I guess
Yeah.
as a grower, what's most important to you, and what sets your garden aside from all others, or is it just the same as any other high quality cannabis? And I mean that's not a bad thing either.
Yeah. Well, it's really about organics. It's you're not technically supposed to say organic, because you got to go through a whole process to say that. But what I will say is I use Canna, and I feel like a lot of people use other products, but I've been using Canna for years, and it really works for me. Their products to me are very clean. They pass testing, and I haven't had any complaints. Flavor, just overall production. Canna really is that product. Like at one point, I'm like, I need to rep their products because I
Mm-hmm.
spent so much money with them.
I know
Yeah,
of I know of great products that were a result of that product line being used in the grow. I
yeah,
don't I
yeah.
don't think you're alone with that.
Yeah, they've been doing it for so long. I mean, Holland in general, like there's so many light years ahead of us as far as their indoor horticulture. So just being able to apply those same techniques to my garden is what I do. And then the IPM. keeping things, on the healthy side, clean side, researching what's the best product out there that's not going to have a lot of residuals as far as people, smoking and inhaling. Like, we're dealing with people that are, medical patients. So, nothing too harsh. A lot of canola oil and peppermint, things of that nature that, really just kind of keep down the pests. And then I got into this new product called Puridyne, which it controls the mold spore, so you don't have to worry about mold. In Michigan, it's really tough to grow cannabis because the air is so contaminated. So this machine is like, it takes a lot of the guesswork out of it. It's just working while you're not. It has this UV light, and it's continuously going, cleaning the air, sanitizing the air. I mean, it's even good for like classrooms, like even right now during COVID, like something like that, just even in your home is a good thing to have. So just investing really in creating that laboratory grade environment, even if it's in your basement. You want it to be as clean as possible.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Good. Right on.
Yeah.
Well, I guess what's your favorite strain right now, or what are the genetics you're trying to get a hold of? What
Man,
are you trying to lock down?
I'm always trying to get a hold of some genetics. Always. It's so hard because everybody in the industry is like, I'm not giving up anything. And if so, you gotta, they charge you so much. And so a lot of the genetics I have, it was really just given to me. The gelato times animal cookie, gelato 41 times animal cookie, like that was I was sitting in somebody's dispensary and he had this plant and it looked terrible. And I was like, man, just give me that so I can bring it back to life because you're gonna kill this plant. And I took it home and it just became a fan favorite, a patient favorite, I would say. All the patients love Gelato 41. And then recently I got a hold of some runts. My HVAC guy, he was doing some work for me and he was just like, I got some runts. I'm like, okay. So a lot of times I try to go with what the most popular strand is, and so runts right now is what everybody's talking about. I've dealt with cookies. I really don't like cookies.
Oh,
As
that's
far as growing,
blasphemy. Oh, okay.
as far as the growing, like I love it the way it looks. No, 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 no,
Oh,
no, no. I love the way it looks, but it was the cut that I had and the seeds that I got. I didn't really like how they grew, you know. So a lot of times the seeds that I find are the genetics that really do the best in my garden. The stuff that I'm creating. I call it Renee's cookies. You know,
Oh,
that's my middle name, so I call it Renee's cookies. So,
mm.
you know, those to me, and I think it's just because you're starting from that, that S1, that strong genetic. After you get clones from other people, they might have pests, they may have disease and stuff like that. So, I think a lot of times just getting that seed is the strongest. And I like cornbread too. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that strand.
I
Cornbread
did
is really cool.
cornbread back in the
Oh, yeah,
day.
we smoked some cornbread for sure.
Yeah, I've grown dog shit, cornbread, Gorilla Glue, um, Pineapple Express, a Blue
What
Dream.
Yeah.
what strain? What strain that you don't grow anymore that you wish you still had?
Blue Dream.
Blue
I
dream.
wish I did not lose that strain. I
Me
lost
too.
that strain. Man, it's an aphrodisiac. The cut that I had, it's like, how do I say it? It's like the blue pill. You guys know what I'm talking about.
Well,
Damn.
I guess it hits everybody different, but I happen to
But
know Ganja Granny
God to Granny. Okay.
got a nice cut of some Blue Dream right now.
AKA
And
pretty.
and then subsequently got engorged.
Gord.
I don't know. I don't know about that, man.
Yeah, I don't know. But I
What
follow
the
God to
fuck is?
Granny. I need to DM her and see if she'll give me a cut of that. I don't even need roots on it. I can get some roots on it. I just need a cut of it.
You know, Blue Dream's been one of those medical strains we've been really hoping that cannabis retailers are going to carry, because a lot of times it's not as big of a yielder as some of the other heavy indicas. So we're worried that bean counters are going to run these commercial cultivation centers and say, if it doesn't yield this number of pounds per plant, then I'm not going to grow it. And Blue Dream's going to drop out of availability for people that need it for various things. That's why we need caregivers to always be there to make sure that they keep, you know,
Yeah.
keep alive those genetics that everybody loves that may not be featured in a commercial
I
fucking
think
place.
Blue Dream was like 2018 or 19 like strain of the year or something too.
Really?
Or like it was the most asked strain at the dispensaries or something.
Maybe we thought it was being popular for the wrong reason, though. You're telling us about the real reason why Blue Dream was flying off the shelf. All right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Gets everything going. Cool.
Yeah, it's an aphrodisiac for sure. And the cut that I got, it wasn't DJ Short's cut. I think it was crossed with a sativa somewhere. I don't know where, you know how you get different cuts and you just different phenotypes, you know. It was a producer. You know, I lost it to some weird this was a long time ago, but I lost it to some like aphid infestation that I had. So it was really disappointing that I lost that strand, you know. But that's why I need like 10,000 square feet of grow so I can just, you know, hold on to all those genetics, you know, or
Yeah,
even
no, and I
more than
mean, I think that's why community is important too, because like, you know, some strains are out here,
mm-hmm.
and you know, I think different growers get different results from the same seed. And like, you can't call either one a failure, but like it's like success in two different directions,
Mm-hmm.
you
Mm-hmm.
know? So you lose that if you don't have community. If
Yeah,
you're not out there and sharing your genetics, because
Mm-hmm.
like a lot of people, you know, they lose that, but then they're able to get it back, you know, from the same person that they showed love to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly.
You,
There's plenty of like, people that actually have loyalty. You know what I mean? Like,
have you looked into the tissue culture
Yeah, so I've done
method?
a lot of research into that. That is a cool way to hold on to your genetics because all you need is like a very small part of the plant, right? To regenerate.
Yeah, I don't know a lot about it, but I know that that would be, you know, a
Yes.
good way to solve that issue. If you know, for
That,
those who.
yeah. Our propagation room in Calyxeum will definitely have some tissue culture happening for sure. For sure.
But one of the most exciting things about the industry is pheno hunting. I mean, trying different
Oh,
strains. Oh,
yes.
they got some smiles,
That's
right?
why
we
we're in LA right now. That's why
yeah,
we're in
this is
LA.
what we already doing.
Yes.
We was in Holland for Christmas.
Yeah.
I used to live there, so I know where all the spots are.
what?
Nice.
And we went to Barcelona.
Yes.
So we've been doing it. We
Yeah.
really,
Cannabis.
yeah.
Yes, yes. Strain Hunters is one of
We're the
my
black strain
favorite. Yeah, we're the
strain.
Black Strain Hunters.
Have y'all been documenting this? Have y'all been like doing
Yeah,
it?
So a
so
little bit.
no, I've been taking videos
All right.
because one day I feel like Netflix may hit us up, like, let's do a
That would
documentary.
be dope. You
And
gotta
I'm like, I got
document
all this
that.
home footage to help you out here
Yes,
from my iPhone.
yes, yes.
Here you go. But we have a bit of it. But that's one thing we want to do is document this whole process of like us in the community, us out here in Cali doing what we're trying to really document it all because even the cannabis shows that I see like on Netflix, they have series now. They still kind of like dry and corporate cannabis, like
Oh,
cannabis
that's
shows.
what
I'm
they're
like,
all about.
you
That's what they're
know,
all about.
yeah, so I'm really we you talked about community and that's one thing I think sometimes people forget is like, yeah, cannabis is this billion-dollar industry now, but cannabis requires culture. That's the thing that's different with cannabis in comparison to, I don't know, finance, tourism, whatever other industry, is cannabis has this culture and community around it. And that's why a lot of these bigger companies that have the money, like MedMen, but they lack culture and connection to community, they fail. So that's what we're trying to
Yeah,
do the opposite,
yeah. It's a
They
whole.
lack morals and intelligence and
Yeah.
So
experience
you
and
guys are
any
you guys
sense
are
of
Exactly.
Avoiding disaster.
You guys are trying not to fail. Is that right?
No, don't want to.
That's what it is. Okay, yes.
It's not even an option.
We
Failure
just
is not
wanna
an
we
option.
just wanna grow.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, I love Strain Hunters, Greenhouse Seed Co. I love
Yeah.
those videos that they show. We want to start doing videos like that where we just focus on just doing some comparison between different like lighting companies showing, say a Gavita versus a
Yeah.
Light Pro, and what this plant yielded versus like I think all that is super cool. I'm really a weed nerd. Like at the end of the day, Sub Cool, TGA Strands. I've been growing some of his stuff. Not Pineapple Express. Jack's Cleaner.
Oh,
Uh,
love it. The
Jack.
Jack's Cleaner's
So there's
amazing.
that. There's a tragic story, of course. Obviously behind
What happened?
Yeah.
I don't know what
Sub
happened.
Subcool passed away, didn't he?
Oh, I didn't
Yes,
know
he
that.
did.
I know he had. Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, Space
And
Jill and
and
Jelly Bean and all
and
those,
before
those
and
special
yep, and
strains.
before that, there's a huge fire, and a lot of his genetics were destroyed, gone forever.
Oh my,
Yep.
that's
But
terrible.
so it's yeah, but we've had like a lot of good times and good growers throughout the years that have produced those strains over the years, and
Yeah.
I agree.
When we opened Big Daddy's in 9 and in 10 and 11, TGA was, like I said, Space Jill, Jilly Bean, all of those strains that were
Ace of Spades,
yeah. I mean, we sold a lot of
I
seeds like
know
that.
Hammer,
Blushberry,
Yeah. Yep.
Circle. You know.
yeah.
Wow.
Yep. I like to do Grow Show. I get a lot of information from them. They're based out of I think Colorado and Canada. Do Grow.
Have you seen Danny Danko's brand new podcast? He's doing something with the Northeast Leaf magazine. He's got a new podcast, got like 8, 9 episodes out. I've known Danny for a number of years and read his stuff in High Times when he was publishing there. He's so good. He and Nico Escondido both really just at the top.
Yeah. Yeah, I gotta check that out. Kyle Cushman. It's like all these people I want to meet,
Oh yeah.
in the industry, like for real, like sit down, just like we're talking, just have some real conversations about
both of those guys come to Michigan
Yeah.
fairly regularly, so that could probably happen.
Who you really want to sit down with is DJ Short. That guy is
Yeah.
is incredibly intelligent. His genetics information is just superior, and he's really approachable. He's really
Well, and
just a
he's
nice
in
guy.
Michigan most of the time too.
He is.
But
He's
but
just
what I really like, that guy for decades has been around the world
Mm-hmm.
in search of genetics, and he's also seen all these emerging like movements in cannabis at different places and
Okay.
played themselves out in different ways all over the world. Having that discussion with them is
Yeah.
interesting also.
yeah. We're
Yeah.
really fortunate here in Michigan. We get access to a lot of really outstanding, uh, you know, legendary kind of people in the industry, both from a cultivation, from an activism, from a business perspective. Shit.
Yeah.
I love Michigan.
Yes. Yes. Yep. I'm a weed nerd all day, every day.
I like to smoke weed all day, every day. Does that
So
count?
Yes.
you guys have definitely come a long way in the world of cannabis, and you definitely are going to go a lot further. But what was your first experience with cannabis?
Ooh. My first experience, or you want to go first? I know mine.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. So this is crazy. My grandmother, she's probably like screaming down from heaven, like, you better not tell this story. But I'm gonna tell it anyway.
All right.
So my uncle gave my grandmother this cookie. And she, like I said, had a lot of pain, suffered from a lot of pain. So cannabis was something that she used all the time for her, pain management. And I guess I must have been brave. I think it was my birthday, and I was going to a Nicki Minaj concert at Shane
Oh.
Park. and, and I got this cookie, and I ate the cookie, and I had such a great time at the concert. It was really the first time I had ever had cannabis. I smoked it a little bit in college, but not really. I didn't know what I was doing. So I had a really good time, but I thought to myself, I can make a better cookie. Because I like to cook. That's my other passion is cooking. So I'm like, I can make a better cookie. And so I started doing research on YouTube. We call it YouTube University, and found a recipe on how to make space brownies, space cakes. And I have found like a friend of the family who had some herb, and I followed the recipe to a T. Made this big pan of brownies, and literally like no dosage, no, this is before all of the dosages and the labels and everything. I ate a whole brownie like it was like a regular brownie. I had no
No.
idea,
No.
and I was tripping.
See,
Tripping.
that could have happened with the first cookie that you ate. Fortunately, you had a great time on it, but
I
you had
had
no idea what was in there either. That could have ended your career. You might not be sitting there right now.
exactly, man. I think I was high for probably 2 days.
I've been there
I think I was high
before.
for 2 days. I really should not have
That's
had.
too overwhelming. I don't like that. I
Yeah,
love
I don't like.
cannabis, but that's
Weed
that's
hangover is real.
yeah.
A weed hangover is a real fucking thing.
It
Yeah.
is. It is. So yeah, but my grandmother, I said, Granny, I got all these brownies and I can't eat another one of these because I was high for 2 days. So she was like, I got it.
She was like, let me
This was
let me have it.
that was her medicine. She gave me the thumbs up, and ever since then, I just been playing with recipes, and making gummies, making brownies, cakes, lasagna, pizzas, and you name it. I've literally infused it into cannabis.
What are you infusing with most now?
The gummies, the gummies are really what everybody seems to want, and like
I
No,
like the
are you using Rick Simpson oil? Or are you using a can of butter? What are you using primarily?
Rick Simpson oil.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And now I figured out how to learn also how to infuse it into flour,
and
into
sugar.
sugar. So now I can make, lemonade and tea and things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, get a
I
homogenizer.
love that stuff.
Get a homogenizer. Okay. Yep. That'll keep it. Right.
That'll keep it from separating. That
Keeps it
that
mixed better.
all the janky shit separates.
Okay. Okay. What about you?
Oh yeah. So half my family's Caribbean, so I was introduced to cannabis early. I knew what it was. So I mean, I really started smoking in grad school because it was so stressful. And I never really drank. I kind of alcoholism runs in my family, so I've always viewed alcohol as wrong. I've never seen it do right to anybody. And then even when I go out with my friends and people drinking, they throwing up and on the ground. I'm like, I don't want to drink if this is how I'm gonna be. So I just start, when I wanted to celebrate, I'll smoke instead of drink like, a lot of people do. Or when I'm stressed out because I broke up in a relationship, I'll smoke instead of having a drink. So it's kind of been there really since after school, really. I didn't smoke during school, but I was a great student. I was focused on my education. But yeah, at grad school, I was like, fuck this shit. I need a stress relief. So yeah.
Hmm.
But yeah.
Yeah. And it's so funny because when I was in search of cannabis, once I like had a lot of patients that were, asking me for products because they had such good experiences with the ones that I made, I ran out of product. And so I remember finding somebody like on Weed Maps, and the guy, this was before I knew anything about growing and knew anything about like, where the medicine came from. He gave me like this huge bag of fan leaves. He's like, "Oh yeah, you can have this." And I'm like cooking with fan leaves, not knowing like this isn't gonna do anything for anybody. And so the people they were like hitting me up like, "Hey, that first batch you gave me, it was real good, but that second batch, it ain't really do nothing for me." I'm like,
She got
"Okay, let me
played.
figure out what's going on."
She got played.
Yeah, so it's been a lot of trial and error, especially in the early days. Like we talking
Yeah, I used to get
2009,
played too.
2010.
I used to have
10
to
years
pay a
ago.
lot for some Reggie. I didn't understand how to really pick good weed and stuff like that. So Yeah.
Well, you've been around the world plus some Caribbean roots. What are some of the names cannabis has been known by in the different places you've been?
Yeah, um, I've known it as ganja. That's what I usually call it. Herb, grass is what my older family calls it. You got some grass. Um, what else?
What do they call it in Holland?
What else?
Hmm,
I don't know.
that's a good question. We went to a couple coffee houses, but I
No,
mean, I
I
don't know.
forgot.
I don't know if there was anything different than what we know.
What do they call it? Do you
Oh
know?
yeah,
Cause really,
I
yeah,
guess what's understood ain't got to be explained in Holland.
yeah,
right. Yeah.
yeah. It's not really like people don't do it in secret. That's what I loved about Europe is people was just like, "You want to go have a smoke?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I actually do." So yeah, I liked how it was just so common. People do it in the middle of the day and have coffee. It's just like Starbucks over there, you know.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, I
that's what
know
I really liked
in
about it.
Jamaica they have what is it called? Chara, chara. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, but
Yeah.
they just rub the plant and they get this like get all the resin, the live resin
Oh,
from the plant, and
yeah.
then they use that, smoke it. They line
Videos of them doing
Finger
that
hash,
shit.
man. Yeah, pretty
Yeah, I've
much.
never
your
had it.
hat. That's exactly what it
That's
is.
the best shit there is, man.
It's like yeah, it'll
I
get you
love that.
a little
I'll try to be functional.
bit. Oh, yeah.
Well, shit, man.
So right now I'm just as far as on the grow side, just keeping it really simple. Once you get like a formula, you don't really want to mess with it. You know, I use cocoa, I use canna, I use some Botanicare additives, and I got a few little secrets that I do. Just to can't really tell anybody about those, but
Mm-mm.
but yeah.
Well, I know you
There's
guys
a
were.
special tea made out of bird droppings.
Are you guys gonna be a part of the organic cup happening later this year in Michigan?
I mean, I would
Toe
love
chapter.
to. For me, I've been really underground for a very long time, so
Yeah.
um it, I'm just now coming into like doing things like this and showing my face on Instagram. Like it's really been like
Yeah.
growing pains
I had
because
to drag her out the
yeah,
basement and
yeah,
say, listen, people have to know who you are. You're not
yeah.
that bad looking. Show people your face, you know? So yeah, that's what we've been working on is doing more stuff like this because, as a startup, people believe in the founders. We don't have product yet, our facility isn't up. We don't have Calyxeum product. So now people are believing in us, the founders. We are building our brand, going through this process. So we've just been trying to put our face in front of the camera so people can connect with people that are in cannabis. I think a lot of times these big brands, you don't really know who own them or who operates them or what they had to go through. So that's why we try to maybe
And
participate in
Yeah,
competitions
some competition that would be
like the
dope.
cup.
Yeah, I just to me it's all about having that like resource and access. Because I've heard it's very political even in those
Mm,
cups. So
yeah, no, I mean it can be, but like how we were talking about community, um, the real award is already known. The person who shows up and they already have demand, pre-order,
hmm.
people
mm.
trying to link up. That's the person who wins, not
Right.
whoever gets the cup. Sometimes it's the same person, but not
Mm,
all.
okay.
Yeah.
Hey,
I
let me
mean, I don't
jump in
know.
here. We
Is
got
that a good way to say it?
there's a question from the chat. Roy Boy says, "Do you use the whole can of line or just A and B?"
So to not give off too many secrets, okay? I use the A and B. I also use the Tonic and the Canazyme. I used to use Boost, but I found a better substitution for the Boost. The Boost is really, really expensive. And I found what the Boost was made of. tricantanol and a little some seaweed extract and stuff like that. So I was able to kind of make my own little magic potion to substitute for that expensive boost product.
Mm.
You use that the enzyme, Canna enzyme
Yeah,
product?
Canazyme.
Yeah.
Yep, Canazyme eats all those dead roots up and stuff. So, and then the rhizotonic kinds of comes in and creates like nice white healthy uh, root system.
Colin.
You said
Well, yeah,
what?
I don't know. There's an organic cup happening
Okay.
in August, I want to say. Um, where is that shit happening, Berg? Uh, something with a G, right?
What?
See?
The organic cup. Where's it at?
Is it in some
Gladwin.
part of Michigan
Is
or
it in
something?
Michigan?
There you go.
It's in
Gladwin, Michigan.
Yeah, where is that?
Okay.
Okay,
Glad.
so like, you know, if this is Michigan,
Is it at a campground?
it's like right in here. That's what I was gonna say.
No?
It's
I
in the
don't know.
fingers.
Or it's some random place.
I, you know, I try not to go into the fingers of Michigan, but I think it's still in the palm.
Yeah, I'll definitely check
Okay.
it out. I'll definitely check it out for sure. Just so that we can again start putting the brand out there and
Yeah.
some of the strands that I crossed because I took some cuts that I got from somebody from in Georgia and got the cornbread mail and did some texting, as they say. Pop those seeds, and I'm thinking I'm gonna come up with something good. This one guy gave me a cut of something. And he was like, it was a 6-week strand. You guys heard of those 6-weekers?
Like an
Like an olive
autoflower,
oil.
ruderalis strain. Yep, they grow short and grow fast.
Yeah, but this is not auto flower. I mean, you still have to have the lights,
It just goes to the cycle fast. It's just
it's
the way
matures
it
a
is.
lot faster.
Okay.
Yeah,
Man,
yeah,
shout out Chef Anna with the pot. Are you guys familiar with Chef Anna with the pot?
Oh yeah.
yeah. I've been seeing him. We follow
On
him on
social media.
Instagram.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
he
that's
has
the
a lot of.
homie, and he's like an autoflower wizard.
I see.
Wizard.
Yeah, yeah. I see. Yeah, I think the autoflowers are cool. But for me, when you're just trying to like as far as production wise, I don't know if the autoflower is the way to go, you know. Um, but it's definitely something
Yeah,
I
no,
feel
for
like
sure.
I would tell somebody who's like a novice or doesn't have a
Yeah.
lot of ceiling height, and they want to get started, like, hey, start with that because it's short, and you can learn, how to grow, uh, you know, that.
Yeah, no, and that's why I say shout out to Chef because like that's what he's about, trying to get like patients to become somewhat independent
Mm-hmm.
and not be so dependent on dispensaries
Mm-hmm.
or caregivers when they can look to themselves and have a great product to enjoy.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, see, Rick, you changed your background. Now
Where are you
where are
now?
you at?
Oh, I like to be mysterious. I'm going to keep you
Okay,
guessing.
okay.
Yeah. All right.
Damn, Rick's
Yep.
trying to
That's
set the
Somewhere in the
mood.
fingers of Michigan, I think.
yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that's a good one.
Above the knuckles, as I like to call it. Yes. So I live in Flint. That's where I'm at right now. That is a nice photo that I sell on Getty Images. It's a nice little cool stream here. It's actually a seep.
Okay, nice.
Yeah. But the other one was just, oh, that white background has started to flake out. I've lost all my natural light now, and I just have my ring light going, and it was just messing with me. So
Yeah, not a lot of people know this, but Rick is a part-time shepherd. He'll show you all the pastures.
Wow.
I want to think that was an insult, but I didn't understand it, so I'm gonna let it go.
Nah, no insult, man. Well, damn, man. What's some news stories, Berg?
Man. I mean, well, mean, shit. Since you guys are over in like California, I guess we'll talk about that one. I guess like the arrest for cannabis, has been down 22% overall, but even after that, it's like 44% of those arrests are Hispanic. It's still minorities that they're going after. So,
yeah, I watched the documentary. It's on Netflix. I think it was Drugs Inc. or something. It just premiered, but I just went straight to the one with marijuana, and it's still a war on drugs. The black market is still being gone after by law enforcement.
Yeah, and I think one thing we need to do as part of cannabis legalization is educate law enforcement. Like, we need to have more conversations with law enforcement on what the cannabis laws are, what being a medical patient means, that you can actually have product with you, or that this is a recreational state. Like, we need to educate law enforcement more, because for so many years, they already profile people of color, and then if they see a joint or some bud or something like that, it's just kind of just been habitual, I think. So we just need to just start educating law enforcement now, because I personally don't think they're educated on like recent cannabis legalization or rules, or I don't think they really know.
Yeah.
So yeah, we need to talk to our police.
There's just an article in the Metro Times not too long ago about how even though cannabis is now legal, it's still being used as the basis, like to continue an education or to continue an investigation during a stop or something like that. Like they haven't shaken that should be old way of doing things, but it's still an issue.
I was gonna say, man, I was this was years ago, back when Detroit first decriminalized cannabis. But it was a dude, and he was like a new American, we'll say, and they impounded his vehicle because he had a joint.
Yeah.
And like the people there, they were like making fun of him because they were like, man, like that's not illegal anymore. Like, you're stupid.
Exactly.
And he really didn't know better. And he let it, he let it happen. I'm sure if he would have spoke up or said something or acted any kind of different,
It
that
seems like he was a
wouldn't.
victim. Just like criminals sort out who they're going to commit crimes to, they decide who the easiest mark is and who's somebody not going to resist. And if a cop wanted to pull some shit and get a guy's car, he would target somebody who just got off the boat and signed his papers, right?
Yeah, no, and
It's criminal in its
realize
intent, man.
it's
everybody
like
needs
crazy
to realize, like, straight up, like, a cop's job isn't to tell the truth. Like, straight up, that's not their job. Their
yeah,
job
no,
is
but
to get you to fucking talk. That's it. Try
Yeah.
to yourself.
Yeah.
Stop.
Yeah. I had one situation. It turned out to be nothing. Because I just so happened to leave my door a little bit open, and the alarm triggered, and the police were, dispatched. And they came in and they saw my grow, and they were like, well, we just want to see some cards. And I
Yeah.
showed them the cards, and everything was good. I mean, one of the police officers was like, man, I need to do this when I retire. I need So I've had positive experiences with police, but I'm still scared though. It's still like they still make me nervous for some reason. And I know I'm doing everything above the law, but um
Yeah.
it's just that energy. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's just been like, taught to me to just have some
Yeah.
sort of fear.
Yeah.
Um
I mean,
yeah,
shit, they're even coming after Rick, so I would say that that's a healthy response.
yeah.
It means you're alive. You recognize when you're in danger because the police sometimes do whatever the hell they want to.
Yeah.
For sure.
Especially if you don't know your rights, which I don't know. I kind of feel like that's who it needs to protect the most. But hey.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, you can change the laws, but you can't change the culture of the police department. That's something that takes a long time to do. They're under the protection of some of these union contracts, which allow them to commit crimes and not ever have the public find out about it, and have investigations kept secret and documents.
They have that immunity bullshit.
I know.
Get right to the heart of it and work on that.
So when you already walk around the world thinking that anything you do is going to be okay, no matter how heinous and stupid it is, when some person in another place changes a law, what do you give a shit about? You're still going to continue to do your job in the way that keeps you safe. A lot of these guys just need to be, I hate to say it, but rotated into different employment, because until we change who the police officers are, we're probably not going to change the way that we are policed by those officers.
Yeah.
And they're talking about sending more of those unmarked vehicles around all kinds of cities.
That's fucking scary, Berg.
Sending federal agents into
That's
cities
scary.
where the protests are still going on. Yeah.
Right?
You give them an inch, they take a mile. So once they start that shit, right, then they feel like it's legally okay, and then.
Yeah, that Portland shit is scary.
Seriously.
Like they just snatched like a woman. I saw they snatched a woman up.
To Detroit, everywhere. Man.
Yep. All the places with Democratic mayors they're talking about. I mean, he hasn't named a Republican city or a Republican state yet, Trump. But this federal police force, that's bullshit.
Detroit is different. I don't think it's going to work the same.
And I mean, you can they can detain you with like no lawyer, no questions asked.
No warrant arresting. Yep, they don't have to have a warrant. They don't have to even, know your fucking name. If they see you and they want you, they just grab you without any insignia and throw you in a van, like the mafia kidnaps people, right? It's like the mafia in fatigue, essentially, is what it is. You have every right to believe that when they grab you and throw you in the van, your life's about to end. That's got to be fucking traumatic as shit.
One of the early one of the early robberies in Lansing was believed to actually be the feds.
Yeah. Well, we see this thing where this guy shot the son and husband of a federal judge who happens to be over this important case, and then the guy who did that just an hour later
ends up being shot.
Kills himself.
He ends up being shot.
Right, Berg kills himself. Right?
Oh, he killed himself.
So not believable. So okay, I did this assassination for you. Now I'm gonna get off the hook for my shit, right? No.
Did he shoot himself in the back of the head?
There's so many ways. The tools of power are being used in ways which the founders never intended. It is our job as citizens to help to right that wrong, and by downsizing police agencies, demanding accountability and transparency for some of the budgetary expenses and some of the unit actions that these cops do, that's how we start to rein this in. All of these things that look like minor, they're all little steps towards a better scenario, a better world that has fair policing. We have to keep pushing for that. And your involvement on the Detroit City Council trying to create better cannabis laws is a big part of that too. So thank you for participating in that.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Yeah, you got to be a part of the political process.
We definitely do. Cannabis is so
successful.
political. Yeah.
Our industry is full of people who likes to complain but not do anything, right?
Yeah.
We call them non-strategic vocal activists, right? They don't do shit, but they run their mouth. They're non-strategic vocal activists. And sometimes it's difficult to tune out that noise and just continue to focus on doing good.
Yeah. Yeah, it was very important, I think, to us. And even before I met Rebecca, like I wanted to go sit in on some of these meetings. I would find out that a meeting was happening, whether it was the BZA or, just finding out like, well, how do these people get these positions? A lot of them are volunteering to be on the board. And then it's like, you know, when you hear the conversations that they're having, they weren't even open to going to Colorado to see how other people, other communities were doing it, or how Colorado was doing it. And it's just, again, it just goes back to that education. Education is so important.
I'll tell you that in the early days of forming the medical marijuana program, there was something called the pharmaceutical grade marijuana program, which was actually passed into law and still exists in Michigan. And as part of that, a team of lawmakers flew all the way up into Canada to someplace to take a look at professional grow operations there too. We've seen the governor and lieutenant governor and other people visit other states to take a look at their industry, maybe not cannabis related, but it's the same thing. This is something that's pretty commonly done, and for them to resist that is really kind of remarkable, right?
It's remarkable, but because we've been going through the process with talking to the community and seeing, you know, who has a voice, you know, who is speaking the loudest, now I understand. Like when I was sitting in those meetings at the city council, I didn't know, because I didn't see the full, you know, the full spectrum of how, you know, I hate to say it, but the little old lady gang, you know, they have control in a lot of different ways because they have such negative views of the industry, you know.
And those people may be some of those folks that are just the unconvinceables. I mean, we all know that there are some people that we can reach through logic, reasoning, and compassion. And then there are some people who have just had so much indoctrination by the federal government about how bad cannabis is because of the war on drugs and all of this is your brain on drugs and all the stuff they pump into our heads from elementary school on and all the public service announcements. Some of those people will never shake that programming, because that's what it is. It's actually programming like in a cult. But you know, those people we just can't get to, and we need to spend time talking to the people that can be concerned, you know.
Yeah. Anytime somebody compares marijuana to morphine, it's like I'm done with the conversation. Like I can't convince you if you think that morphine and marijuana are similar.
So that's exactly what he said during our hearing.
Yeah.
That's been a problem for a while. It's been on this list of other things that it's inappropriate. It doesn't work anything like those other things at all. And in fact, even though we've passed the Michigan Medical Marijuana Act and we have the commercial programs and we passed the MRTMA, Michigan is still on Michigan's controlled substances list as a Schedule 1, connected to penalties.
Yeah.
It's a contradiction. You know, you wonder why people don't just trust government. Well, because government embraces a lie, and they refuse to change it in the face of overwhelming evidence. Right. Yeah. So removing cannabis from Schedule 1, it should be Schedule none, but getting it off 1 is a key, because once you do that, it triggers so many additional changes across the state, changes other states' policies, changes federal guidelines, not just sentencing, but in business, would free up banks to be able to operate. So. You know.
But is that the thing though? Is that the reason? The 280E, the more we researched it, it's like they get a bigger cut. It's for so long they weren't getting that cut. And so they're like, okay, now we need to get our cut and we're gonna penalize you if you want to do this. Like if you want to do this, it's not gonna be the same as it was before. You're gonna have to give us our share. And that's the way it looks to me, you know, because if you deschedule it, then you won't have to pay those same that 280E, which was created because some drug lord was using his you know, the money, the profits, and deducting all his expenses.
The Pablo Escobar control.
Well, you know, I was actually talking about the state controlled substances list.
Okay.
Which has a different set of implications, but yes, it should be descheduled federally also, but of course with the states at least being able to put their own programs in place, put their own systems in place.
See, now marijuana is actually cannabis is actually listed on Schedule 2 of the Michigan Controlled Substances Act when it's used medicinally, but when it's criminally used or used outside of the medicinal venue, it's Schedule 1.
Well, and it's illogical because in Schedule 1 it says that it has no medical value. So it doesn't have a place on the controlled substances list in reality. So it should come off, and it still has some negative consequences. Anything that's not covered by the MRTMA or some of these other laws, it would fall back to that, and that's criminal code stuff like felonies for having cannabis. CPS is still driven by that sometimes.
Yeah.
Mm.
So
There are
some
a lot of fights still have that.
Yeah.
A lot of fights.
Yeah, a lot of fights left. And I think people in the cannabis industry are going to really have to start not just lobbying politicians, but become politicians.
Yes, not me, but
Well, I think, from a local level, that's why we've been talking to all these different candidates for House of Representatives in the Detroit area and in others in Washtenaw County and places like that, because this next crop of folks that come into office and they swear in 2021, we could really turn the tide. In Michigan, the Republicans control both the House and the Senate. That's pretty much a stopper for any kind of cannabis law reform that we would agree with and think is proper and appropriate. We've seen what the Republican legislature does when they get cannabis law reform. It's called the MMFLA, and all that ridiculous testing and all the ridiculous background stuff we complained about earlier. So,
and the Democrats aren't perfect either, so still have work to do there.
What do you guys think about the testing? Do you think that it's fair, or do you think it's unfair?
For the commercial testing, the standards are too high and too restrictive. There's some really good cannabis that probably doesn't pass.
Yep. There are lots of other states will have lower testing standards that their cannabis, which is sold healthily in those places, would not pass Michigan standards. So I think from a standpoint of consumer use, I like to see some standards. I like to see things be safe.
Right.
But it's an undue burden. We see whole crops failing. They've changed the batch size several times in order to bring batch size down. So if your batch fails, you don't lose your entire garden. I mean, it's
that's the scary part for me. I'm trying to figure it out. I'm trying to dial everything in now on a very small level so that those type of issues don't come up on a large level. And if you guys know of anybody that has dialed it all in, I would love to talk to them, because I was hearing that like even the cocoa that people were using was coming back. It was one of the reasons. It's like, how can you get rid of that? Like, you need that. That's the source of which you grow your products, and cocoa is supposed to be the best thing out there, so
yeah. Well, I will tell you that when you're talking about testing and getting your tests approved, I mean, there's not even enough labs to do things. I'd really like to see cannabis go the way of hemp.
Yep. I said that a long time ago when I saw the way they were structuring everything. I'm like, it's not going to be enough labs. You have to have those relationships. There's no way, because if not, you're going to be waiting on your products to be tested. It's a bottleneck, right?
We've seen that already in this industry. Jamie is involved in the botanical company up in East Tawas, but we have many friends that have distribution centers. We're dialed into that, and I can tell you, when people are waiting 3 weeks for a test, you're not only you're warehousing all that cannabis waiting for the testing, while all the time you're harvesting more. You're doing, every week we got another plant or two coming down. Every week we got another 20 or 30 plants coming down, and it's not optimal. I said earlier they should.
And Rick was talking about the lawmakers going to visit the place in Canada. That's when we learned about their process of irradiating the cannabis, because they have to have it hang out in these piles, and it grows mold and shit on it. And so then they irradiate it, kill all that off, then they grind it up and send it out.
Yeah, the Marijuana Regulatory Agency today sent out a memo about homogeneity. You're supposed to take a sample and then chop it all up and make sure that it's representative of everything. And they gave new rules for that. What Jamie's talking about in Canada is homogeneity too, but what they would do is they'd take everything from the plant, they'd throw it together in a blender, and then they would ship via the Canadian Post, ship these vials of crap to people who had qualified for medical. You remember, they won't let us deliver cannabis through the post office because it's such a terrible risk. Oh my God, the Canadian government did it for years and years and years already. So it was just the worst thing. It's why nobody participated in their program, and their illicit market flourished. And now that they've got a more reasonable way to do it, still A lot of people are never going to go back. The legacy market, the black market, if you want to call it that, that's generational.
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
not going away for 2 or 3 generations.
There's no reason for it to.
There isn't.
Let people get cannabis however they want to get cannabis.
We took
Yeah.
penalties.
For all of it.
We reduced penalties for that kind of action in the legalization program. Thank you, Jamie. And we reduced the people that would the number of people that would be victimized by police for simple transactions like that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a lot. You really gotta love the plant. That's really what it boils down to for us, is that we love the plant, because Rebecca says it all the time, like, we could have done anything
to make
money and be successful. You know, her background is in engineering and corporate, and also she opened up gyms, you know. And my background is in science, and I have childcare centers. So, you know, like, we could have pretty much picked anything, but it's that love for the plant that has really kept us going. But you know, we just,
and love for our community too, because we've seen how this plant has tore up our community over the years, you know, imprisoned people wrongly, prevented them from getting jobs, etc. So that's another reason we're so passionate, because we're like, you know, you can make all this money now off of this, and for years and years you've traumatized these minority communities. So that's something else, you know. We definitely love our community too.
Sure, you want to shout out your your website, your IG, what other social media platforms do you have?
Yeah, so our website is Calyxeum.com, Calyxeum, Calyxeum. And then our Instagram, which is, we're getting pretty active on Instagram. We're at like 6-something followers. So we're just trying to get our followers up. We try to do weekly videos down in the Grove. We try to do videos about the legalization process, all type of educational stuff we try to post. And that's at Calyxeum_Detroit. So yeah, follow us.
Definitely
follow our journey.
Follow our journey. Yeah.
We appreciate you coming on. As always, Roach, you want to give a shout out to both, you know? I want to give a huge shout out to Rick Thompson, C Murder, fucking Jamie Roll for joining us tonight. They're gonna have Jazz Cabbage Cafe tomorrow at 4.
Who you guys having on tomorrow?
We're having Ellie Savitt, who is running for Washtenaw County prosecutor.
Whoa. Okay. Nice. Jazz Cabbage. That's a nice name.
That's cool.
That's what they used to call cannabis back in the 30s. They would call it the Jazz Cabbage.
Oh, yeah, because a lot of the jazz musicians like to.
For sure.
I'm sure it wasn't a pleasant name to give it. I'm sure it was kind of an insult. So
negative, right?
You love it.
We make it a positive.
Yeah. Yes.
Well,
yes.
We're taking it back.
Maybe. Yeah. Maybe we do.
Mm-hmm. Bringing Jazz Cabbage back.
Hey.
Well, I would definitely be tuning in to you guys now. I love, like I said, I'm a weed nerd, and I like listening to education and keeping up with what's going on in the industry and the culture. So you guys definitely have us, on your side.
You can catch that broadcast on our Facebook page, the Facebook page for Jazz Cabbage Cafe. So tune in tomorrow at 4. We'll be expecting you to listen from the garden. Plants love us. People not so much. Plants love us.
Okay. All right.
Well, big shout out to all of our sponsors: Honeybee Extractions, Native Made 313, Ghostbuster Farms, Western Tobacco, Michigan Turp Farms, that dirty Sprite, oh my God, Michigan Ganja Queen, and Label My Motherfucking Bud.com.
All right, y'all. Well, I appreciate everybody following through tonight. Everybody enjoy the rest of your night. Thank you, everybody out there in the chat on YouTube. I think we answered everybody's questions, hopefully. But if not, hit it then. You know how to get hit everybody. So, all right, everybody. Medical numbers, y'all.
Peace.
Bye.